What players see the biggest boost in value with Baker Mayfield now on the Carolina Panthers? That and so much more on tonight's episode of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. Victoria, start us off. Which player do you think sees the biggest boost now that Baker Mayfield is in Carolina?
Ooh, Baker Mayfield found a home. All right, so to me, each player should truly only be bumped slightly, right? We've got DJ Moore, we've got Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, of course, CMC. I think DJ Moore should see the biggest boost, a slight boost after he's played with that abysmal carousel of quarterbacks last year. Hashtag Sam Darnold is stinky. So Terrace Marshall stands. Maybe we see them alive again. Is he going to break out of that fantasy irrelevance? I'm not going to bet my money on it. I want to wait and see there. I'm sticking with CMC and DJ Moore as my two targets to draft in my redraft leagues in a couple months. Of course, Robbie Anderson, to me, he's still high ceiling, low floor. And I mean, I don't know. Baker Mayfield, to me, his best fantasy finish was QB 16 overall. Of course, he's got 4 years now in the league. He averaged about 23 touchdowns per season. His completion rate's not too bad, 61, 62%. But you kind of saw when Odell Beckham left Cleveland, it kind of quieted that narrative that Odell was the problem. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how things shake out in Carolina. But I'm not bumping any of these players too much higher.
Yeah, I mean, what a testament to how terrible the quarterback play has been in Carolina that Baker Mayfield lands there, and everyone's like, "Oh, DJ Moore, he's finally got a quarterback." I mean, it's still Baker Mayfield at the end of the day. Troy, go ahead and just help us off here, though. Our friend Jimbo Swenson is asking us who sees the biggest boost. You could make a strong argument that Jacoby Brissett sees the biggest boost, right? I mean, he's probably the week one starter now, isn't he? But let's hear from you, Troy. Who do you think saw the biggest boost here?
Yeah, I mean, you're right there. I would say I agree with Victoria about I don't think anyone gets a major boost. I'll go with DJ Moore. And I guess in a way, Baker is the best quarterback to ever play with. I know he played with Cam kind of towards his declining years. So I guess just being fair, I guess Baker is his best quarterback, right? But the thing is, DJ Moore has been good with his horrible quarterbacks, right? So he's actually put up over 1,100 yards every season since 2019. And I looked up the stat. He's scored exactly 4 touchdowns each year since 2019. So hopefully Baker can get him to that lucky number 5. But the problem with Baker, right? He's so vanilla. He's not the type of quarterback that's going to be able to support multiple top wide receiving options, right? So it's really going to be CMC and one other guy. And who knows about Robbie Anderson? He might retire because that's what he was saying, pretty much because Baker Mayfield's in town. But I would have to say DJ Moore. He should pretty much be doing what he's doing yardage-wise. He should get the most targets. But I'd like to see that touchdown, category go up a little higher.
Yeah, and I mean, by every metric that you look at, whether it's like efficiency, ability to pull targets, whatever it may be, DJ Moore is just putting up elite numbers. And the thing that's kept him from really being a fantasy stud so far has been his inability to stay out of the end zone. And, I'm a Baker Mayfield fan. I like Baker Mayfield, the person. I like the heart that he plays with. He reminds me a lot of, one of my favorite guys, Jay Cutler. Doesn't have all of the tools in the world, but he's just got this attitude that's kind of like fun to cheer for. That being said, can't help but think that this is a downgrade for Baker Mayfield. I mean, going to a team that has some good playmakers, but they don't have the same offensive line. They don't have the same defense. They don't have the same run game. I mean, maybe if you're banking on Christian McCaffrey to be healthy for a full 17 games, but this feels like it's a ding to Baker Mayfield's value. And really, I mean, between the two options that were available, Carolina or Seattle, I don't think any of them would have really significantly boosted his value. And I joked around about it a little bit, but realistically, I mean, we got to look at Jacoby Brissett now as the week one starter in Cleveland. And I don't think he's going to be putting up crazy numbers, but if you're in a 2-quarterback or a super flex league, he is absolutely worth a look now. Just being able to check down to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that alone gives him some fantasy value. Not that I think he's going to be putting up crazy numbers, but he's got some rushing upside as well. We saw him kind of playing that goal line quarterback role a few years ago in Indianapolis. So I think that there is something intriguing there with Jacoby Brissett, but really, as fun as this story is to talk about, I don't think it really moves the needle for anybody as far as fantasy relevance. I mean, I think everybody's kind of where they were at. I sat down, take a look at my rankings, and I was like, all right, I guess I moved Baker up from, QB 33 to QB 27, but what is that really, Well, anyway, let's go ahead and jump in because we got a lot of great questions today. Before we get into that, Want to introduce my co-hosts, Victoria Geary and Troy King. As always, you can find Victoria on Twitter at FFB_Victoria, and you can find Troy on Twitter at TKingMode. As always, we will start with the pre-submitted questions that we get from email, Twitter, all over the place. You can send those over at mailbag@footballguys.com. Once we get through those questions, then we will open it up to the chat. So be sure to drop those questions in the chat, and we will get them at the end of the episode. But let's go ahead and jump into the second question. This one comes from Dan Remus saying, what's the absolute lowest ranked quarterback you're willing to have as a starter this season? Troy, start us off. This, again, loaded question. Are we talking 2 quarterbacks, super flex, 1 quarterback? Kind of walk us through your thought process on this question.
So just for the sake of the conversation, I'll make it 1 QB, right? Because that's always tougher. So I put a range, right? Because my answer, y'all would get on me for my answer being too homery. So I put a range, right? So 2-1 at QB 17, okay? But the lowest I'll go is probably Jameis Winston at QB 19, right? We've seen Jameis Winston when he was healthy. He is a very solid quarterback, and you could definitely plug him in as your starter. But obviously, with the Kamara situation, if he's going to be playing or not, suspended, Michael Thomas, God knows what's going to go on with him. So though their availability definitely, is going to impact how comfortable I am starting Jameis Winston. What's up, Cooter? How you doing? If I could say it on the show. Sorry, Joe, but that's her name. But anyway, but yeah, so I would say Jameis Winston is probably the lowest, but depends on his weapons.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair going down to Jameis. Victoria, what's your question or your answer for this one? The lowest ranked quarterback you're willing to have as a starter this season?
Oh, goodness. I'm looking here at Football Guys consensus ADP. I think so. I've been talking a lot about this guy week after week. Derek Carr, we got him sitting at QB 15 ADP. I'm loving a lot of Carr this year. I'm going to have him in a lot of redraft. After Carr, we've got Tua, Troy's boy, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's at QB 20. And I thought to myself, I could maybe squeeze to Justin Fields, right? That rushing upside, Dave, you've been touting him all offseason. I just think that, honestly, thinking about it right now, if I drafted my team, I was done. I was looking over my team, and Justin Fields was my QB1 in a redraft league, right? I would feel a little uneasy, to be honest. Although I do believe in him for the season, I'd feel a little uneasy if he was my only QB1. So honestly, I'm going to stop at Carr here at QB 15. That's as comfortable as I can get. I've been singing his praises on the Mailbag Show recently, so I'll stick with Carr.
Yeah, and kind of what I've been saying all offseason, I feel like there are pretty much like 16 QB1s this year. I mean, it seems like the depth of QB1s are so deep. So I'm with you, Vic. I'll go as deep as that. And if you are going to wait a little bit longer for some of those other guys that are a little bit more projects, a little bit risky, you might say, I think the strategy there is to double tap at the very end of your draft and take 2 quarterbacks there. So if you're going to wait for a Justin Fields type, take Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, take Justin Fields and Matt Ryan, throw Ryan Tannehill, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, whoever you think that has some sort of upside, because we see this every single Daniel Jones. He's got some sneaky rushing upside. He's got Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney, a healthy Saquon Barkley, Kenny Galladay. I mean, we're labeling Daniel Jones into the post-hype sleeper territory. Everybody was all gung-ho about this guy last year. He didn't live up to the expectations, but now on a contract year with a pretty good supporting cast around him. And Vic, Brian Daboll, come on. We saw what Brian Daboll could do to a young quarterback.
But let's stop the talk. Daniel Jones is not a young Josh Allen. We've seen Daniel Jones. His flashes are he tripped over himself running on the way to the end zone, right? I don't want to be mean to the kid, right? I wish him the best.
He's 25 years old. He's still very young considering he's been in the league for 4
How old
years.
is Sam Darnold? Let's play this game, right? Let's play
He's always like the youngest guy.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold is still younger.
Before we move on, I want to give Dave some credit because he actually takes his advice. He's not just telling y'all it, right? Because we actually just did an underdog best ball, and he did the double tap of quarterback, and he took Justin Fields as his second quarterback. So he means what he says, right? He applies it. So he's not just telling you just to tell you. All of us do, but there's a recent example of Dave applying this exact strategy.
I'll just go off on a tangent here. I think everybody that is producing content should practice what they preach.
Absolutely.
Nothing gets me more upset when I will
should.
see people all the time touting a player, and then I get interested and I look up their rankings and let's see where they got him, and they're below consensus on a player that they're tweeting about how I won't get into it, but that blows my mind. Yeah, you got to practice what you preach. If you believe a player, put your money where your mouth is and go out and draft him. But yeah, and all I'm gonna, you guys both made some great points. All I'm gonna say here is if you're waiting past those top 15, 16 quarterbacks, which I kind of dub them all to be QB1s, I think the best thing to do is draft two. We see it every year. Guys drafted outside of the top 20, guys pop up on the waiver wire. I mean, who's to say that Kenny Pickett doesn't just step in mid-season and just go on an absolute tear? I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. So, quarterback is the one position, especially in a single QB league, that I'm really not trying to pay up for with how deep it is and knowing the guys are going to pop up on the waiver wire throughout the season. Next question comes in from Rare CNEPS saying, who would you rather have in PPR Dynasty? So this sounds like a trade question. Either they're mulling over a trade or they just had some buyer's remorse about one that went through. Asking, would you rather have Michael Pittman or Hunter Renfrow and James Cook? Victoria, start us off here.
Well, I'm not going to let my Bills bias show in this one. This is pretty easily Pittman for me. I think that last year, we all talked about, Pittman broke out last year. He finished the season at wide receiver 17, 14 points per game if we're looking at that, right? But I think his true breakout is coming this year. He's got Matt Ryan on his side now. I think a top 10 finish is well within his range. And then if he does hit that, he cements himself as a stud wide receiver going forward. And I don't see that happening for Hunter Renfrow now with Devontae Adams in the building. I don't think he has that top 10 potential. Although Hunter Renfrow's my boy, one of the most underrated route runners in the whole entire league right now. But still, you got to be realistic here. And James Cook, I hope he does very, very beautiful things for my Buffalo Bills. He could very well be a fantastic running back piece for them. But the running back position on the Bills has not been relevant since Shady McCoy. Let's hope that changes this year. Singletary had a great stretch at the end of the last season. But other than that, on top of that running back shelf life, we know versus a wide receiver in Pittman that's only 24 years old, it's really easy for me, Pittman. Running back shelf life for these leagues is a couple of years, so Pittman for me.
Yeah, I mean, this offseason, I try to do a dynasty startup or at least a mock draft like once a month just to kind of see how values are changing. And for some reason, even after Michael Pittman had his breakout year early in the offseason, I'm talking January, February, March, people were still sleeping on Pittman. He was slipping into the 7th to 8th round of dynasty drafts. And then he started to creep up, and then he started to creep up a little bit more. And now I'm seeing him go at like the 3-4 turn. Like he is getting valued now as a top 12 wide receiver. And I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't be. Like looking back at last season, I don't know why everybody wasn't on Mike Pittman. I mean, this guy was injured as a rookie, but he showed some flashes in his rookie season. And then, he's just got so many desirable traits. 6'4", 90th percentile speed score. He's got the burst. He is great at contested catches. He does everything you want to see an alpha receiver do. I think the only thing missing, he was 2 picks away from getting that, first round draft capital. He was a second pick in the second round. Had he been picked 2 picks earlier, I think everybody would have been touting this guy. But I think at this point, you got to look at him as a top 12, top 10 dynasty receiver. Troy, what side are you sticking with here? Michael Pittman, or are you taking the Renfrow and James Cook side?
It's easily the Pittman side for me, man. And just for all the reasons you guys said. Also, last year he put up 1,000 yards with Carson Wentz and his very inconsistent play. He saw 129 targets last year. That should hopefully go up. And they didn't have a competition, right? They drafted Alec Pierce. I don't know what kind of pro he's going to be, but he got drafted in the second round, but he didn't have the profile of guys going to step in and just take away a significant target share away from Pittman. I think Pittman is absolutely still the alpha. I think he's going to continue to be the alpha. You said last year he broke out. I don't see why he's not going to continue. And he's a young receiver, right? He's a young receiver. He's dynamic. He's only going to get better. So, yeah, Pittman all day. I love Renfrow. I like James Cook, but James Cook, we have no idea. He could be a glorified third down back for all we know. We have absolutely no idea. Yeah, he has the draft capital. We don't know how the Bills are going to use him. I mean, again, trade him to a Bills fan, even if you're going to do this trade, but I don't know. I would say that, yeah, Pittman easily for me.
I mean, you got to imagine that James Cook's last name is one of the reasons that he is just getting valued the way that he is. If he had any other name, we wouldn't be talking about him the way that we are. the last thing I want to say about Pittman, because obviously we're all in agreement here. This has just turned into one big Michael Pittman Jr. Love fest. Have it no other way. I'm glad that we're all on the same page here. But something interesting that Alex Caruso at Football Guys, he pointed this out recently, and you could say it might be more causation than correlation, but throughout Matt Ryan's career, he's had the benefit of playing with guys like Roddy White and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but his wide receiver one throughout his career has averaged 160 targets per season. So you just talked about it. Michael Pittman saw 129 last year and put up borderline wide receiver one numbers. If he sees a target boost now with a better quarterback under center, I mean, sky's the limit for this guy. So I think even with Michael Pittman's value creeping up this entire offseason, I still think he is a buy. Next question comes in from Brian Fisher, and Brian is asking us, I am in a slow Football Guys draft right now, and I took J.K. Dobbins as my RB2 in the 5th round with the 5th pick. What are some mid to late round running backs that I should target for an early hot start? So what he's looking for right here, J.K. Dobbins could be starting the season on the PUP list. He might not be ready for week 1. Sounds like his ACL recovery isn't going as well as we had hoped. So who is a guy that you should be targeting in the mid to late rounds? Do you think could have a hot start? Victoria, start us off here. Who's somebody that you would be targeting?
Ooh, I'm going to hit on, you might be surprised here, Dave. This is one of your boys, Damian Harris. Weeks 11 through 18 last season, he was the RB30 overall, 16.7 points per game. This guy is underrated, it seems, the last couple of seasons. He's a great RB2 to have on your roster. I also like Rashad Penny's going pretty late at RB35. He was a running back 7 overall weeks 11 through 18. He had that awesome second half stretch, 17 points per game there. And I know Kenneth Walker is lurking in the background, but I'm guessing that Penny's going to be the starter week 1. I don't see why not. So if we believe that he will be, RB35 at ADP is kind of ridiculous right now. I don't know. I keep expecting it to be creeping up as these weeks go by, and it's not. Nope. It's very interesting to me. So I like both of those guys. I don't know if this next guy that I've listed too, you guys might talk about, he might be a little too high to be drafting. Travis Etienne. I mean, he's got a fantastic chance to step into that role. James Robinson looking questionable to start the season to be a full go. So I don't know if that's too high though for this question.
Yeah,
but
I'm guessing I've been doing a lot of best ball drafts. He's typically going in the 3rd round now.
Oh,
he's moved all the way up.
Goodness gracious. I was looking on our Football Guys ADP. It's not, I know it's a little different than our best ball friends over at Underdog, but yeah.
And I was coming out with videos back in February saying go out and draft Travis Etienne now, because what's going to happen is one camp clip is going to come out. Like, we're going to see this guy catch a pass. We're going to see him cut. We're going to do something. And then every concern about his Lisfranc fracture is going to be gone, and his value is going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what happened. This guy went from being a 6th round dynasty pick to a 2nd round dynasty pick. In best ball, he was going in the 6th and 7th round. Now he's consistently going in the early 3rd. I see more and more people every single week putting him at that RB1, RB2 cusp area in their rankings. So yeah, I mean, he is just skyrocketing up boards right now. But Troy, same question to you. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I didn't consider somebody like Michael Carter too. Troy, you might have taken that one, but somebody who is probably going to start the season as the RB1. I know they'll probably ease Breece Hall in. So by the time J.K. Dobbins is ready, Michael Carter might be a nice fill in there for you.
That's exactly where my head was. Find out, and that's why I see Dave Gladstone in the chat mentioning Rashad Penny. I was thinking Rashad Penny. You said Rashad Penny for that exact reason. I mean, there's very likely going to be a changing of guard at some point in the season. We see that often when there's a good rookie running back that comes in. But even Jonathan Taylor, it took him a while to pull touches away from Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines, and then with Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown was the starting running back for the first few weeks before Cam Akers eventually took over. So I think that even if there is, a way that Ken Walker at some point does pull away the starting job from Seattle, it's going to be Rashad Penny's to start the season. So I think that's the perfect guy to go after there. But Troy, who are some other mid to late round running backs that you'd be targeting here?
Sure. Yeah, you guys named some on my list, but I like Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I feel like, look, we've seen what Kareem Hunt can do in fantasy last year. Obviously not so much because of his injury, but him being healthy again, he's going to be – it's the same offensive system. He's going to be the one who's going to be in on 3rd down and working on the 1st down and 2nd down. So Kareem Hunt, we've seen him have the upside to hit RB1 numbers. So I like Kareem Hunt. Cordell Patterson. Now, unfortunately, Sleeper made him only a running back, so that made me very sad. But obviously, we saw what he did last year. He could do it again. And again, the running back competition is very gross in Atlanta, so I could see him hopefully, being utilized again. And also Devin Singletary, kind of some of the same reasons you guys said. James Cook, I think he got to earn his reps. Yeah, it'll be a third down, but we saw Devin Singletary towards the end of last season. He was putting in work. He was scoring touchdowns. He was very involved. He looked very good rushing the ball. So I believe that an early hot start, he's somebody that's going pretty late where I've been targeting him in my draft. So that's, besides everyone that you said, I like those guys too.
And this next question that we've got is a very similar question. We're not so much looking for the early start guys. But Adam Koffler says, which running backs after RB30 have the best chance to finish as a top 15 running back? So we've already talked about a lot of these guys with the last question. Just so we're not talking about the same guys. Kareem Hunt, RB31. Kenneth Walker, RB32. Devin Singletary, RB33. Rashad Penny, RB35. And I think that's just about everybody that we covered with the last question. So, Troy, why don't you start us off here? Who's a running back outside of the top 30 that you think could finish top 15?
Chase Edmonds, because look, I know that we haven't seen him in that RB1 role, but he was very efficient in Arizona, right? He looked good with the opportunities he had. I believe Mike McDaniel had to play against him twice a year when he was in San Francisco. There's a reason why they brought him to Miami and they paid him the money he did. Yes, they have other running backs on the squad, but I know contracts aren't everything, but they do tell you something, right? So I know there's Raheem Mostert, I know there's Sonny Michel, but Chase Edmonds to me is going to be the RB1. And if it's going to mirror anything like the San Francisco offense that we saw, it's going to benefit Chase Edmonds. And Mike McDaniel already mentioned that it's going to be a run-first team, right? So they're going to play through the run. So I think Chase Edmonds is going to be the RB1. And I don't know if he's going to be the goal line guy. Maybe they have Sonny Michel there, but I believe he's going to have enough opportunities where we can see that happen. And this is more of a deep cut, but Melvin Gordon, he's back with the Denver Broncos. I know it might be harder to reach that top 15, but we've seen Melvin Gordon produce solid numbers his entire career, right? I know this is not a career award, but he's back in the same system. Last year he looked good. I believe they're going to still go to him on the goal line. So those are some deeper cut guys that I think could possibly sneak into the top 15.
Victoria, same question over to you. And Troy, I don't have a ton to push back on. We've talked about Chase Edmonds a little bit on this show already. It's possible that he can come out to be the guy. I think that, I don't know if there's anybody there that's really built for like a full workload this season. So I think it's kind of going to be a little bit more of a committee than what Shanahan has done in the past. But, you make some strong points there. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't start sneaking a little bit of Chase Edmonds into my best ball portfolio over the last month or so. But Victoria, same question goes over to you here. Outside of the top 30, who do you think has a good chance to finish inside the top 15?
I'm going to stick with Rashad Penny, honestly. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm going to have a lot of shares of this guy. If he sticks at this RB35 ADP, or even if it's 25 to 35, that's just absolutely ridiculous and a steal. Because who do we know is at the helm this season at the QB position? Drew Lock, potentially? Or we've got Geno Smith, who I assume, I don't know why everybody's thinking Drew Lock's got this in the bag. I think Geno Smith might have an edge here.
Looked good last year.
Yeah, he was fine last year, and he knows the playbook already. So anyways, I digress. But these are the guys that are throwing the ball. We still got Pete Carroll in the building trying to ground and pound on the ball. If Rashad Penny can stay healthy, this is the bottom line, the only question. But you're not pushing all your cards into one pile, because this ADP is not, you're not reaching for anyone here. This ADP of RB35 is wild. So I want to stick with Penny there. Outside of that, I'm looking at the list. I'm not really sure. We talked about Dameon Pierce on the show last week, and not to overlook the Houston offense. Davey just put a video out on our Football Guys YouTube page for that. Check that out. But, I mean, Dameon Pierce, if he separates himself there in Houston from the pack, which there's not much, again, to separate from, he's got a good shot. But I don't know about top 15, maybe top 20, but I do like him there. A lot of these guys, though, Darrell Henderson, Nyheim Hines, You've got Isaiah Spiller, Rashad White. These are some guys that are in the mix if the running back in front of them goes down. Someone like Rashad White, if anything happens to Leonard Fournette, Rashad White has a massive opportunity in front of him there. And he's at an RB48 ADP. Someone like that, I'm keeping on the back end of my rosters.
Yeah, I think the guy I was going to mention were two of those handcuffs that I think are just in prime positions where they have guys in front of them who have struggled with injuries throughout their career, and they are do-it-all backs. Alexander Madison, Isaiah Spiller are two guys that I've been targeting pretty heavily. They're each, a tweaked ankle away from putting up weekly RB1 numbers. So I like both of those guys. But the one guy that I think doesn't need an injury to really pay off and possibly crack the top 15 this year is Nyheim Hines. And I know you were just kind of dogging him a little bit, Victoria, but 2 years ago, Nyheim Hines finished as the RB15 in PPR leagues, and that was with Phil Rivers checking down to him. And that's what Nyheim Hines does best, is catch these little wheel routes out of the backfield. Just kind of serves as a safety blanket to a veteran quarterback. Carson Wentz, who was the quarterback last year in Indianapolis, checked down at one of the lowest rates in the NFL. He's done that his entire career. He's not somebody that checks down when he gets in pressure. Rather than looking for that safety valve, he just tucks his head and runs with the ball, and that really just killed Nyheim Hines' value last year. Now with Matt Ryan, a pocket passer who is more than happy to utilize a guy. I mean, this guy made Cordero Patterson fantasy relevant last year. I think that we can see a huge resurgence from Nyheim Hines. And right now, where he's getting drafted, currently going as the RB45. I mean, you're taking him in the same round as handcuffs. And with handcuffs, you're hoping for an injury in the ceiling. I think Nyheim Hines is a guy that this season you'll be able to just plug him into your RB3, RB flex spot and not think twice about it. So that's a guy that I like there. Yeah.
Can we talk about one more? Because we've got a comment from our boy, Mr. Scampers here. Like taking Gus Edwards at the end of drafts. I think we are forgetting about Gus Edwards. If we keep talking about J.K. Dobbins not going to be ready, he's not going to be ready.
Well, Gus Edwards not going to be ready either, though.
No, they're saying Edwards should be ready for the start of camp. He's progressing way faster than Dobbins.
Wow. We got to keep an eye on it, though. But his RB53 right now on our Footballguys ADP, I mean, that's absolutely – imagine if it's just – we're just kind of forgetting that in the back of our minds. He's ready to go, and Dobbins has, starts on PUP. Absolute steal there if you get him.
And I'll call out this as well. Mr. Scampers talking about Khalil Herbert. We talked about it. Troy, you and I were in a draft earlier. Khalil Herbert, he's my most trusted running back right now. You took him like 2 rounds early too. I had him queued up and I was ready to get him, and then you took him from me.
I took Khalil Herbert because I knew that if I waited, I was not going to get him. So I took him early because I'm like, listen, he ain't coming back to me. So I reached a little, but I wanted him.
So my quick spiel on Herbert is that I think that he's just a fantastic running back, and David Montgomery hasn't been the last couple of years. I mean, his efficiency hasn't been great, is what I should say. He's put up some decent fantasy numbers because of volume, but now he's on the last year of his contract. We have a new coach, new offensive coordinator, new general manager. We've got an entirely new staff here, and I think it just makes sense for them to work out Herbert a little bit, see what they've got in him. They don't want to have to commit their salary cap money next year to David Montgomery if they don't have to. So they're going to ideally want to see what they've got with Khalil Herbert and Tristan Ebner, the new guy that they brought in as well, see what they've got in those guys so they can confidently let David Montgomery walk in free agency next year. So last year, Herbert kind of played this role as an elite handcuff. This year, I think it's going to be much more of a split with David Montgomery. So he's another guy that could have some weekly flex appeal. And if something were to happen to David Montgomery, then all of a sudden he's vaulted into a top 10, top 15 workload, and he's got a ton of value. So Khalil Herbert's another guy that I really, really like. But we've only gotten to the first half of this question. This is a great question here. The other half of this question from Adam is which wide receivers outside of the top 40 have a chance to finish inside the top 15? And this, again, we see it every single year. We've already talked about Michael Pittman a little bit on this show. Michael Pittman last year was getting drafted outside of the top 40 and smashed his ADP. Tyler Lockett last year, regardless of how well he does, he's always in that wide receiver 35 range. And that's where he's going again this year. Consistently finishes inside the top 15. So, Troy, I'll throw it to you first. Which wide receiver outside of the top 40 do you think can finish top 15?
I actually have a lot of names, surprisingly. And maybe people are going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to list a whole bunch of people.
Oh, we know you're crazy, Troy, so just let it fly.
But so there's 2 people that are on the borderline, right? So the borderline guys are Christian Kirk and Drake London, right? Christian Kirk just got paid. He's around like 38-ish, 39, according to the Footballguys ADP. So he's around there. Look, he just got paid. Jacksonville doesn't have any wide receivers. He could sneak in there based off volume alone, and he's a pretty talented wide receiver. Drake London, for obvious reasons, pretty much same thing. He got drafted high, no wide receiver competition. It's really just him and Pitts. But guys 40 and after, Brandon Ayuk, like Alan Lazard, Dave's boy, obviously, Russell Gage. We got Tony. If Tony continues with that upside that we saw towards the end of last season, if he could make that more consistent and can stay healthy, Tony could be very somebody with a huge upside. And another guy I really like is Chase Claypool. I know that might sound wild, but if him and Pickett have that chemistry, we've seen Chase Claypool have that upside. So just throwing out a bunch. So yeah.
I was with you until you said Claypool.
No, Claypool. Listen.
I'm just messing. His cost is nothing right now.
No, but also look, we've seen
he's free.
The definition he's free, and his upside is we've seen his upside. So those are just a few people.
Why you say talking
Kenny
Pickett?
I just saw Dave's message too.
Kenny Pickett.
I just saw his message.
Yeah, you took his
I sent a private
boy.
message saying nobody better talk about Lazard, and here Troy is right off the bat.
I did not even see. I did not even think so.
All right, Victoria, over to you. Who's the guy outside of the top 40?
Who am I supposed to talk about? I mean, Troy just basically
went
listed
down the
every
list.
single wide receiver
all the
after
good ones.
40.
I named like 5.
Oh, well, I'm going to start with one I would not be drafting. I do not draft this, Mr. Kenny Galladay. Let's just get that out of the way really quickly. I really do. I like Chris Olave for New Orleans, wide receiver 47. I like Traylon Burks keeps falling and falling and falling because why? Because he has asthma? I mean, because he can't work out in the 90-degree heat down in Tennessee. Like, he's going to be in his air-conditioned domes for a couple of the weeks. So I'm not really too worried about him. Russell Gage, we talked about him a lot on the show, starting the year. I don't think Chris Godwin is going to be starting the year healthy. He could even start on the PUP list. I love Russell Gage for that beginning of the season. Troy, you mentioned Drake London. I know he is right on the cusp. We've got him at wide receiver 40 ADP. I love Drake London's ADP. For this is just wide open in Atlanta. Outside of Kyle Pitts, obviously we've got Cordell Patterson, but he's an old man now. So
he's a running back too now.
Right. Right. Yes. Thank you so much. All those apps who took away our glorious fun.
So
I mean, there's outside of that, another guy I'll say that I will not be drafting, Nicole Hardman. I know that wasn't the question, but I see him here and just want to get it off my chest. We got to be honest here. This is a safe space. So
drop the J. Cole reference again. Fool me one time, shame on you.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, I mean, Nicole Hardman has been getting us for years, and we keep falling for it.
Every
Come on,
single
Miko, we can do
time.
it.
Troy, did you mention Tim Patrick? I mean, we've been talking a lot about Tim Patrick.
I was gonna say a lot of them. See, I did save some for y'all. I was gonna say there's some names. I'm like, let me save some for my co-host.
Did I save anything for you, Dave?
Yeah, there's one guy that I didn't hear either of you guys mention. I mean, you talked a little bit about Lazard, and I could go on and on and on about him already. You guys know how I feel about him. I'm not going to talk about him for 5 minutes. Just Google Dave Kluge, Alan Lazard. You'll see all my tweets. You'll see my articles, videos, all that fun stuff. The one guy I'm going to talk about, though, all right? This guy was 7th in target rate last year. He was top 20 in yards per route run. He had the best juke rate of the entire wide receiver core in the NFL. This guy was electric at separating. Once he got the ball in his hands, he would not go down. Kadarius Toney now on a new offense with a new offensive coordinator.
I said him, but it's okay.
Well, I wasn't listening because I was too busy.
Dave gave us the numbers, okay?
Yeah,
you're right.
We got the numbers.
I just listed them.
I mean, Kadarius Toney, what more is there to like? I mean, he's a first rounder who's an elite separator that is electric after the catch. I mean, it's such an easy comp to make when you see him in that blue and red jersey, but he looks like a young Odell Beckham out there. I mean, the man is just ripping through defenses. And obviously, we've got a lot of concerns there. If Kadarius Toney wasn't a knucklehead that was getting himself in trouble and, causing drama and, milking the injuries, he'd probably be getting drafted right around the same spot as Devonta Smith. He'd be going top 25, top 30. But instead, because he has all of these issues, that's baked into his ADP, and you can get him at a huge discount right now if he's able to play this season and make it through a full 17 games. I mean, it would be almost impossible that he doesn't finish within the top 15. Like what this guy did on the field last year was wildly impressive. So I'm really excited about Kadarius Toney.
I got one more.
Let's hear it.
One deep cut. Wide receiver 58 in Football Guys ADP. Jacoby Myers.
Cake.
Jacoby Myers.
Yep.
Jacoby Myers, look, he had the highest target share last year of all the New England wide receivers. He has that chemistry with Mac Jones. I don't expect that target share to go down too much. He's still, to me, I know they brought in Devontae Parker, but I think Jacoby Myers is still going to be that wide receiver one, the first look. So I try to target him as much as I can at the ADP.
Yeah, he was top 20 in target share last year overall, and just, he's got 2 touchdowns in the last 2 years, and that's why people don't like him. But that's going to turn around. Jacoby Myers is a very good football player.
What about passing touchdowns?
There you go. Those do count. Yeah, those do count. You get 4 points for that.
I was just looking at Footballguys ADP, even lower and lower. How is Jalen Tolbert drafted by Dallas this year? Wide receiver 72? And as we're expecting, not that I expect him, it's not for my answer for top 15 potential, but we're expecting Michael Gallup to not start the season at full go, right? How 72? It's not just going to be CeeDee Lamb.
Got James Washington too.
Yeah, they got James Washington. Dalton Schultz is there. They're expecting Tony Pollard to get more passing work. So Tolbert could be 4th or 5th in the pecking order there. So I mean, I'm not disagreeing though. The ceiling is there, and at that point in the draft, that's all you're doing is throwing darts. I mean, if we're going that deep down the board, can I talk about Nico Collins for a little bit? We already talked about how Michael Pittman.
We're helping the people.
Michael Pittman had
this is what helps the fans.
Michael Pittman had all the indicators last year that he should have broke out. Struggled with injuries, didn't have great quarterback play. And then you look at Nico Collins' rookie year, and they are almost identical. They both drew exactly 61 targets. They both missed 3 games to injury. When you look at their profile, they are both 6'4". They both have 90 percentile speed scores. They're both in the 85th percentile when it comes to their burst scores. These guys are very, very similar in production. They both have day 2 draft capital, where Michael Pittman was on a team with an aging T.Y. Hilton. Now we've got Nico Collins on a team with an aging Brandon Cooks. I mean, it just seems like it's right for the taking that Nico Collins could possibly leapfrog over Brandon Cooks and become the wide receiver 1 there. And even if he doesn't become the wide receiver 1, in the 8-game sample size that he had starting with Davis Mills last year, he was on pace for 94 targets and 833 yards, which would have been a fantastic rookie season. So there's a lot to get excited about with Nico Collins. He's still got some problems between the ears when it comes to focusing and reading through zone defenses, but the opportunity for him to really vault himself into an elite tier is there this year. So, I mean, that's a guy that you can draft in the 18th, 19th, 20th round of your drafts that I think still has really big upside as well. Are we going any deeper than that, or is Nico Collins officially we've gone too deep? All right, on to the next question. This one comes in from Dave Carey, and Dave is asking us, outside of the top 5 tight ends, the top 5 being Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, George Kittle, and Kyle Pitts. I don't care what order you have them in. Throw them in a Yahtzee cup and shake them up. It doesn't matter. Those are the top 5 one way or another. Outside of the top 5 tight ends, who has the most league-winning upside at the position in your minds? Victoria, start us off here. Outside of the top 5 tight ends, who is going to be the league winner?
Oh, my goodness. I did a sleeper tight ends video a couple of months ago, and we love Mr. Cole Kmet here on the show. I was just trying to look up his ADP on our Footballguys consensus here. Goodness, because I got to keep scrolling and scrolling. I can't find him. He has jumped up to tight end 14, so people are catching on, apparently taking our advice. Thank you, people. Thank you so much. Cole Kmet, goodness, 0 touchdowns last year, massive opportunity in front of him. Jimmy Graham left the building. Who else is catching passes besides Darnell Mooney? This could be one of the, sorry, Dave, worst offenses in the entire league next year. But that means it's going to be down games. In games, Justin Fields going to be throwing the ball, and Cole Kmet going to be in the end zone. He's going to be catching those touchdowns. I know it this year. I love Cole Kmet. I think that Zach Ertz at tight end 10 is pretty wild to me, especially us knowing that DeAndre Hopkins is suspended to start the season 6 games. Is that correct?
Yep.
I mean, he's got a massive opportunity in front of him there too. In Arizona, we know they are a fantastic offense. He's open down the middle on every stinking play. Zach Ertz still has a lot of gas left in the tank. I love him there. And I had one other guy here that I cannot find. Oh, Dalton Schultz as well, but
oh my god!
I'm not gonna go off on him.
Best sleeper tight ends, Vic. Save some for us.
I'll let y'all talk about it. But Dalton Schultz, he's tight end 6, so that was kind of a iffy answer right outside of the top 5. I'll let y'all speak to that. But Dalton Schultz too, I love that with Amari Cooper leaving the building.
All right, Troy, the only guy left for you to talk about, Evan Ingram. Let's hear it.
Listen, now I know that's your boy, but let me talk about Dalton Schultz real quick, right? So he was 5th in fantasy points per game last year, 3rd in receptions, 6th in targets, 5th in total touchdowns, guys. He is the one that's going to be in the top 5, y'all. Like, again, Amari Cooper is out of the building. He's gone. Bye. So just CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and Jalen Tolbert and James Washington. Come on, man. Like, it's Dalton Schultz, but some other guys. I'm only naming with you. I'm one other guy. I'm gonna leave some for Dave. Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert. I feel like people are just fading him a little bit more. People are just less excited about him ever since AJ Brown got into town. But I think Dallas Goedert still has that rapport with Jalen Hurts. I really like him a lot to possibly sneak into that top 5.
We got a Boogie Boogie in the chat asking us, is Tanyan in camp? I have seen him. He's just doing some lateral running, or I'm sorry, just some straight running right now. He hasn't done any lateral stuff yet. So hopes are that he'll be ready for week 1. But I got to be honest, Tanyan's not a guy that I'm crazy excited about. I mean, his production 2 years ago when he had that big breakout finishes tight end 3, tight end 4, something like that. It was all touchdowns. And then last year he was averaging like 3 targets. Yeah. And last year he was averaging like 3 targets per game before the ACL injury. So I'm not crazy about Tanyan.
I'm really, crazy about his hair. I'm not gonna lie. I just saw a video of him at that tight end camp, and shoot, I didn't know he was so cute, you know.
Oh boy, calm down, Greg down.
Oh shoot, it's only Wednesday. It's
exactly.
Not Thursday.
Wait till tomorrow.
Right,
have you seen rookie Greg Dulcich yet? The kid out
his hair is beautiful.
Yeah, this guy's got like Troy Polamalu-esque. He's got these curly locks down past his shoulders.
Like Dawson Knox. Ooh, another curly man.
Greg
the only thing I'll add to what you said, Victoria, I agree with you wholeheartedly when it comes to Cole Kmet and Zach Ertz. Those are my number 1 and number 2 most rostered tight ends so far throughout this offseason. I'm about 150 drafts in, and I cannot stop drafting those guys. But the reason with Zach Ertz, I just don't understand why he's getting faded at all. Like, I genuinely cannot wrap my mind around it. The only thing I've been able to deduce is that people are just bored because he's just not an exciting player. But you look back since 2017, you take out the 1 year where he was injured, he has been a top 5 tight end every single season. If you took a random poll of like 100 fantasy managers and said, where do you think Zach Ertz finished last year? They would all say low end tight end 1, tight end 10, tight end 11, something like that. He was tight end 5 last year. And people don't care. From the time that he joined the Arizona Cardinals through the end of the season, he was the tight end 4 overall, the only tight ends that drew more targets per game than Zach Ertz. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller. That's it. Those are the only guys that
people are going to say it because D-Hop got hurt and people don't like him because he's old and they drafted Trey McBride. I'm still on this Ertz bandwagon. I'm just saying those are some reasons.
And I get it. And everybody's reason is, Zach Ertz is old. Zach Ertz is old. He's a year younger than Travis Kelce. I mean, we're sitting here putting Travis Kelce as the unanimous 101. Nobody's even thinking twice about it. And Zach Ertz is younger than him, and everybody's fading him into oblivion because of his age. And Zach Ertz is a fantastic value. I cannot get enough of him. He's actually ranked as my tight end 6 right now for that exact reason. Why he is still getting drafted as tight end, why he hasn't moved up, can't really wrap my mind around it. But on to the next question. We got 2 questions left, and then we're going to the chat. I've already seen quite a few come in. We will get to those, so drop those in the chat, and we will get to them very, very shortly. Dynasty Deviant is asking us, is Josh Allen going to finish as the QB1 again this season? Victoria, the floor is yours.
Duh. Oh my gosh. Let's move on. No. I'm not going to have my bias make this an easy answer. Dave, Troy, and I were talking about this in our chat earlier. Finishing as QB1 in back-to-back years has only happened a couple of times. Drew Brees years and years ago, I think 2013 did it. I mean, it's very, very difficult. Now, do I think he's going to move out of the top 3? I don't. I think he's going to set the league on fire like he did in the second half of last season and just continue going with it. And there's not who are you drafting over Josh Allen this year in terms of, who are you ranking over Josh Allen this year? Obviously, I can't say who you're drafting because I'm probably not going to have many shares of Josh. He's too expensive, my baby, which is very, very sad.
Third round.
Yeah,
you gotta pass up on Javonte Williams to get Josh Allen this year. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. Just take someone else. Take someone else later. Oh my goodness. We already talked about the QBs are very, very, they seem to be, hopefully they will be very, very deep this season. So as much as I love my Josh, can't be taking him. But I'm going to say he's not going to it's not going to hop out of that top 3 for sure this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add. Troy, I don't think you do either. I mean, is he going to finish as QB1 again? I mean, he could. That's why he's getting drafted as the overall QB1. People said he wasn't going to finish as QB1 again last year after he did it in 2020, and he proved everybody wrong by doing it again. Can he do it 3 years in a row? Sure, maybe, probably. But I mean, even, we talk about how there's deep QB1s, and we're talking about the Derek Carrs and Matthew Staffords and Aaron Rodgers of the world. There's also deep, just top tier of quarterbacks in general. I mean, right behind Josh Allen, you've got Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's a lot of other guys that have very alluring upsides as well. So yeah, it's tough to say that he's going to finish as QB1 again this season. Final question, though, from John Larson. Name a player you are fading in redraft and why. Let's try to keep it to 1 each, and then we'll go to the chat. Troy, name a player fading in redraft and why.
I can't keep it to 1 each. I'm just playing. It's got to be Gabe Davis, man. And it's Gabe Davis, and I'm a Gabe Davis truther for those who don't know, but he's getting more expensive by the day, and it's just we haven't seen him get a high target share yet. And I know you don't always have to base it out because we haven't seen it yet, but it's just hard for me. Look, he was losing snaps to freaking Emmanuel Sanders. Like it's just that really exactly like that really bothered me last year. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, and I'm watching every game. I'm thinking this is the game. This is the game that he's going to get targets, and it just never came to fruition. He could average a solid amount of targets, but he's not the type. The problem is Diggs is going to be getting all the targets, and in the red zone, they're going to be. Dawson Knox is probably going to be the red zone target again, like he was last year. Maybe Gabe Davis gets some of them, but it's just where are we going to see consistent target share from Gabe Davis? I don't know, possibly, but at the price, he keeps getting more expensive and expensive by the day, and by the time August comes around, September, it's just gonna be too pricey for me. So I'd rather just wait and get some other guys that are going around his position, like. Again, I like guys like he's going ahead of Bateman. He's going to have guys like Elijah Moore that I like. It's just, again, Juju. I like Juju, and I know people aren't fading Juju, but I like him too. It's just, it's just too expensive.
Victoria, how are you feeling about Gabe Davis this year?
Can't wait till he
puts into a Gabe Davis show.
I can't wait till he puts up 3 tutties, 200 yards against your Dolphins. It's gonna be hot.
And that'll be his own. And again, and he'll have like 0 touchdowns for the rest of the season or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was tweeting today. I just can't wait for the season to start because one way or the other, we get an answer on Gabe freaking Davis. My gosh, it's every single day.
Gabe Davis, Alan Lazard, Amon St. Brown. The season can't come soon enough. I can't keep hearing about these guys.
I literally tweeted earlier, does the Baker Mayfield trade help or hurt Gabe Davis to 9 to 10? Like, that's all we're talking about lately. Okay, so a guy I'm probably going to be out on, and I'm just going to speak based on cost as Troy did with Gabe because his cost is out of control. I've seen Mike Williams go as high as wide receiver 13 right now on Underdog for best ball. We've got him at wide receiver 16 ADP on Footballguys, but that is rich. I could not see myself taking Mike Williams that high over the other guys around him. Keenan Allen's going right before him at wide receiver 12. You got Michael Pittman at
Mike Williams definitely leapfrogging.
Yeah, Mike Williams is starting to pass him. I'm seeing it more and more every day.
It's wild because you got Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, McLaurin. I mean, probably stop there. Terry McLaurin's at wide receiver 20 here. After that, it's A-Rob, Gabe Davis, Metcalf. I'd take all of those guys outside of those last couple I listed over Mike Williams. I mean, he's just not getting enough target share. The guy's a beast. I love him in real life football and all that, but this is really, really rich, and I don't know if I'm missing any reports coming out of camp.
Inconsistent targets.
Exactly. It's so up. It's either real boom weeks or bust. There's not really that, like, that Stephon Diggs kind of consistency for him in any of these seasons.
I think I can kind of explain what I think is going on with Mike Davis here. This guy, people have been wanting Mike Davis. Or yeah, Mike Williams. Sorry, Mike Davis. I hope we never have to talk about his name again after last offseason. But Mike Williams, I think what happened is, he's somebody that people have just been waiting for him to break out ever since he was drafted. What was it, 7th overall, like 5 years ago?
Super
And then he
high.
finally shows what he can do last year to start the season. Like he was playing that X receiver role. He was getting more targets than Keenan Allen. He was balling out. He was the wide receiver one, like through week 5 or week 6 or something like that. And then he got hurt and his role completely changed where he turned back into that downfield YOLO ball, just lay out there and make a catch. But I think that he proved early on in the season prior to that injury that he can play as the team's X receiver. So now with Keenan Allen getting up there in age, Mike Williams getting the 3-year extension to stay with Justin Herbert, I think people are kind of painting this picture that Mike Williams is going to step up as the guy in Los Angeles. And that's why I loved Mike Williams when he was going as like wide receiver 24. But now that he's pushed all the way up to wide receiver 13, I'm kind of with you, Vic. It's getting pretty tough to stomach at that ADP. The one guy I will talk about that I think is overvalued. Troy, you can just take your headphones out for this one. I'm sorry, I hate to do this to you, but Jalen Waddle, I want nothing to do with Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 17. And it is so hard to come up with a reason to fade. And Troy has left the chat. It's so hard to come up with a reason to fade a guy who just came off a 900-yard rookie season. But I mean, for me, it just simply comes down to Tyreek Hill being there and Tyreek Hill doing everything that Jalen Waddle does, but better. I don't think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be able to support 2 top 20 wide receivers, and that's what we're asking right now of him with these ADPs. Jeff Bell wrote a fantastic piece on Tyreek Hill, and I am all in on Tyreek Hill. I think that he's one of the best values out there right now. It wouldn't surprise me if he finishes wide receiver 1, top 3. Like he is going to be the guy that the offense runs through in Miami, and I just don't think that it's going to be there for Jalen Waddle quite as much. So Waddle's a guy, if he was getting drafted wide receiver 25, wide receiver 30, I'd be in on it. But wide receiver 17,
wide receiver 30.
I mean, he's going to be playing second fiddle on a Tua Tagovailoa-led run-first offense. I just don't understand how you can push this guy up. I mean, Devonta Smith was faded into oblivion when A.J. Brown ended up in Philadelphia. A.J. Brown isn't as good as Tyreek Hill. I'd argue that Devonta Smith is maybe better than Jalen Waddle. Why is it that Jalen Waddle stayed exactly where his ADP was, and Devonta Smith took this huge ADP hit? It's just, almost identical situations. And for some reason, Waddle just wasn't punished by the consensus.
That is interesting. That's an interesting point, Dave.
Look, I agree with the point about Devonta Smith. I don't agree with the point about Jalen Waddle, but that's okay. I can't wait till you're wrong.
And don't get me wrong, man. I love Jalen Waddle. I really do. And again, I don't hate any players, but I hate the ADPs that some players carry with them. And unfortunately, Jalen Waddle, I love the man. He is so much fun to watch. He had a fantastic rookie season. I had him on a ton of my drafts. I was all in on him last offseason. Helped me win a bunch of money last year, but now as wide receiver 17, it's just a little bit too steep for me. Jalen Waddle, Troy, and I hope you forgive me as a friend.
He is my most rostered player.
Definitely. Oh wow! All right,
he is my most rostered player. So I can't wait till this plays out. And Dynasty redraft. I just took him in our draft that we just did. So
I saw.
And I know you took Tyreek Hill. So this is funny how we're having this conversation.
I did take Tyreek Hill. Yeah, exactly.
You took Tyreek Hill.
I reached for him a little bit. Yeah. You got to check out Jeff's article, man. So this blew my mind. Blew my mind. Like when Tyreek Hill came into the league, he was a 6th-round pick, landed on the Chiefs, and that's when people started, figuring out who he was, like midway through his rookie season when he was taking the NFL by storm. But he wasn't a guy that most people knew. I mean, he came out of a very small school. Nobody really knew who Tyreek Hill was. Did you know he was actually a running back in college? Yep. He didn't start playing wide receiver until he hit the NFL. So he completely switched up his role when he came into the NFL. So you want to talk about a guy who's going to take on that Deebo Samuel role. How about the guy that they just gave $120 million to that played running back in college? Like, that guy is going to come in and get those short targets and some rushes.
Jeff Bell's article, I got to say, listen, like I know because Jeff Bell also agrees with the dynamic. Look, I'm a Dolphins fan. I don't care. They're both going to be good. But definitely check out that article by Jeff Bell about Tyreek Hill. Definitely one of the best articles I've read in a while. So check that out.
Very good one. Now I'm trying to scroll through and find some questions here. And here we got one from Matthew Bingham. How do you rank the Detroit passing game pecking order? There are 3 guys vying for short and intermediate targets. We're talking about Hakamonora, St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, and eventually 2 deep threats in Chark and Jameson. So let's try to rank these guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at end of season target totals. Troy, you got these guys memorized, right? Can I pull this one down?
Yeah.
All right, start us off, Troy.
Yeah.
Hawkinson, Amon St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams. How do these guys finish in targets at the end of the
The
season?
problem is, I believe Jameson Williams is going to be missing a bunch of games. Like, I don't know how many games he's going to miss, so I feel like he's going to be last just by default.
There's also no reason to rush him out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're not going to be a good team. So get him healthy. So he's going to be last. I think it's got to be gross. I'll go Hawk number 1, Amra 2, Chart 3, Jameson Williams last.
What about DeAndre?
You got Swift.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why I forgot him. I'll have him second. So Hawk, Swift, Amra, Chart, Jameson Williams.
In lockstep with Troy. I'm with you on this one, man. That's not often that we agree on a take, but here we are.
It's true.
I agree. I think it'll be closer than we think between Swift and Amon-Ra, though. I think Amon-Ra might be
I
second.
think it's gonna be closer.
Yeah.
Here's a good question, and we should have started the show on this one. This is a really good question. What does Deontay Johnson's future look like in Dynasty without Big Ben and a contract coming up? We know the Steelers' way is not to pay wide receivers. They don't care. They say, hey, Deontay Johnson, you've been great. Don't let the door kick you on the butt on the way out. But we got George Pickens and Chase Claypool now, and we just had this. I had this conversation yesterday with Herms. I'm sure you guys all know Herms, big time Steelers fan.
Herms
talked about it. Herms NFL, yeah. I mean, he's a Steelers fan, and it's like they never extend to anybody. It doesn't matter. Like they just churn through first and second round wide receivers, and it looks like Deontay Johnson is on his way out of Pittsburgh. Start us off here, Vic. How are we feeling about Deontay Johnson long term?
I love him so much. I think he's an underrated pass catcher, and he gets a bad rap for that season. He had a bunch of drops. Like those are predictable for some reason. Everyone was being silly about that. I don't see him staying with the Steelers, like you said. He's going to be traded somewhere, maybe the Patriots. I was going to say the Browns because they need some help, but they're not going to be trading him in the division. But I don't. He's going to be traded somewhere, and hopefully he can be a wide receiver 1 on that team. But he might lose a good chunk of value after this season. Is really what I envision.
Yeah. I mean, the dude's just a baller, like on his own accord. Like he doesn't need Big Ben, but he absolutely did benefit from Big Ben. So I think there's a lot of risk in acquiring Deontay Johnson. Troy, do you have anything to add?
I'll just say, look, he's going to get paid, not by the Steelers, but somebody is going to pay him. But obviously his future is very unpredictable, right? I think no matter the landing spot, he's talented enough. He's going to get paid enough where he's still going to see opportunities. Maybe not Big Ben opportunities because that was just ridiculous, right? He's probably never going to get that target share ever again. But where he's going to be just fine. He's not going to suddenly suck because Big Ben's not there and getting paid by the Steelers. So he's going to be just fine.
Got a quick question here we'll take in from Wes Booth. If Jalen Hurts can Jalen Hurts support 3 pass catchers for fantasy? Who falls off if he can't? My guess is Goddard, and I know you were pumping up a little bit earlier, but I think that he's the odd man out here, unfortunately.
I agree.
So too.
All right, let's see if we got any more that we could answer real quickly before we run out of time here. All right, yeah, let's go for it. Are you taking Rachaad White as the perceived handcuff ahead of Gio with the Tampa Bay backfield? Just read today in an ESPN article that Giovanni Bernard is a cut candidate. They don't even expect him to make the final roster, so it's got to be Rachaad White.
Yeah.
Awesome stash, but he's getting old.
Shout out to Gio. He went to the same high school as me, St. Thomas Aquinas. Stand up.
Awesome. Love to hear that. And yeah, I mean, it was a tough season for him dealing with injuries and whatnot, getting up there in age a little bit. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. The show is always a blast. We got a minute left here, so before we sign off, Victoria, let everyone know what you're working on right now, where they can find you on social media, all those fun things.
Yeah, you can find me at FFB_Victoria on Instagram and Twitter. I'll be putting out an article about Jalen Hurts hopefully next week on footballguys.com, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for tuning in. The chat was lit tonight. I loved it.
Yeah. We got Mr. Scampers in the chat saying, make sure you hit the like button, you silly geese. Please do it. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff. Troy, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
No problem. Shout out Mr. Scampers. You can find me at T-King Mode pretty much everywhere on all social media platforms, but Twitter's my home base, so T-King Mode. And you can find me here hanging out with these fools every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here to answer your questions. But yeah, you'll see me, putting out videos like this, contributing to videos like this, as well as, collab articles. So yeah, can't wait to do more this season.
Yeah, be sure to check it out. We have nonstop content right now coming out at footballguys.com. And I'm Dave Kluge. You can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge, Kluge. We will see you next week.